Jennifer Palamas from Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is Barbecue Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show where we talk about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, the bbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening. It is an hour show this evening, and coming up earlier than his 35 past the first hour on a third Tuesday is our pal and creator of CookoutNews.com, a Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, Wes Wright, joins us. There's been a number of things that have happened recently in the world of live fire, specifically with a top tier or top recognized name brand, that being Traeger. So I thought we would so I bumped Wes up from his 35 past to 14, longer segment. Since it's an hour, we have plenty of time to talk about all of this. But I don't know the last time somebody has bothered to do something that is a little less than a deep dive, but a little bit more than something superficial like we typically do in a Wes Wright segment. So if you are new to live fire, if you just bought a Traeger and you're looking for a little history, if you are into the business of live fire and you're wondering how all of this has transpired with them over the last number of weeks, months, and years, we'll talk about it all here during the show this evening with our pal Wes Wright, and then we will bring a close to the show. So that's how it's laying out here this evening. You can follow me, if you would care to, on Instagram and Twitter or TikTok or Snapchat, also on LinkedIn with the handle at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and it is not a would you rather YouTube poll question of the week, if you can believe it. Instead, it is just a normal, traditional YouTube poll question of the week. We're asking everybody this, including all guests, which is Wes Wright. Is St. Paddy's Day lame? And currently, 50% of you are saying yes, and 50% of you are saying no. Oh, just like that, 60% of you are saying no, it is not lame. Wait, yeah, correct. No, it is not lame. You think St. Paddy's Day is great. And once again, it has changed. Now, 67% of you are saying, no, it is not lame. I am in the minority. Of course, that's where I always live. I also live in hypocrisy, the state of hypocrisy, capital hypocrisyism. I'm with the 33%. I mean, couldn't be more lame. I don't know a more ridiculous, lame holiday than St. Patrick's Day. Do you need a holiday to go day drinking? No, you can take a vacation day off of work and do it if you would like. The only difference is there's a bunch of other maniacs around you acting like complete nincompoops. You can do that in your home. You can do it on any Saturday. You can do it on any Wednesday. But today, it's not legally allowed. It's just the day that you decide that you're going to either blow off work or take a vacation day and get completely drunk. Or you're like my youngest daughter, who's in the midst of working that nonsense. And as she texted an hour ago or 2 hours ago going, this is a complete shit show. People are just handing me money. She's not doing anything. She's walking by. Here you go. Here's 5. Here's a 10 skis. I mean, I guess that part's all right. Somehow in the poll, we've already walked it back to ditty. Crazy. You people are on voting fire right now. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. Once again, deadlocked. It was almost 70-30, but in a minute's time, we're back to 50-50. Or as Crackhead Bob used to say on the Howard Stern Show, ditty. So we'll see how it plays out here over the next 54 minutes of the show. Results of the poll question from last week. Would you rather blow up 100 balloons or lick 500 envelopes? And 80% of you said the right answer, you would like to blow up balloons. Ever since the George Costanza Seinfeld episode, I have always taken very careful consideration on, am I going to lick more than one envelope at a time? Typically, it's a no. Otherwise, I'll break out a sponge, dampen the sponge. Did you ever have an office lady at work that had it looked like a pen, well, it looked like a dish wand, but it wasn't nearly as thick, and it held water in it, and there was a little sponge at the top she'd bend. That's how she would seal the envelopes instead of licking them. That was efficient, I would have to say. Jason Pettis, who has also removed the digits from the bottom of his name. I'm neutral. Some people make it lame and get drunk. Other people go to the local parade and catch a bunch of free potatoes, cabbage, and onions. Is that what they're throwing at the St. Patty's Day parade, Jason? And where are you living? I got to go there. Hey, look at here. Jeff Cohen, co-host to Doug Scheiding's podcast, Baseball and Barbecue, or BBQ, depending on how you say it. Jeff saying, I must have been the vote to get it 50-50. No doubt about it, Jeff. You were the one that brought us back to break even. All right, so we'll start here this evening before we get to Wes. And dare I say, the level of shock from you at my recounting of the Rocket Arena Suite catering event was incredible. It appears that many of you have had the exact opposite experience that I have had at your various professional sports venues. Look, I know that there are a number of venues that really take pride in their food, almost like a calling card. But for whatever reason, in my city, which I consider to be a great major food destination between New York City and Chicago, in Rocket Arena, the food is disappointing at best. At best. Wildly overpriced for the quality you receive. I understand the business model. You go to a sports venue, everything is always more expensive because they have you trapped like rats. Similarly, you attend a game in a corporate suite, you're going to pay through the nose. Understood. But it's a tough pill to swallow, and it must be because this is the second week I'm talking about it. And it's a tough pill to swallow because there's no difference in the quality of food that you're getting between the suite that you're paying through the nose for and just the regular main concourse. Yes, the food is in the suite. You never have to leave the suite. But for me, that convenience is hardly worth the outstandingly, which is probably not a word, lackluster food option that you're getting to choose from in the suite. You might find it hard to believe that even after I went to the tweeter and tagged Rocket Arena and Aramark Food and the Cavs, hoping somebody would listen to it and thusly get in contact with me for some type of remediation, help, or suggestions, I got 0 replies back. Can you believe it? I can tell you this, I will not be putting food in that suite for any more games that I host. No question. You know, I fear I've made a terrible error. I don't remember if I told Wes I wanted him on at 9:14 or 9:35. Shooting him a quick note. Cripes. So I think where my mind got jumbled up is we were supposed to have a Daniel Vaughn quarterly visit, first one of the year. And weeks ago, he asked if we could bump back to the 24th. I said, yes, but you're going to have to do it in the first hour because we have embedded correspondence second out. Cripes. I fear I have made a mistake. What's going on? I never make mistakes. It's always somebody else's fault. While we live in my misery, can we talk about Primo grills? Of course we can. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for the traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for the high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo and their game-changing oval design. Shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire, also giving you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to cook on this Primo, only limited by your culinary imagination. Tons of accessories as well, only sold through dealers. So go to primogrill.com, find a dealer near you, and check them out in person. You can follow them on the Facebooks and on the Instagrams. Who's ready for a Primo? I'm ready for the weather to re-break again so I can use my Primo again. I mean, if I was a real man, I could just go outside and fire it up because once the ceramic's hot, it doesn't matter if it's 30 below or 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The thing is going to be a rock star. But I am an aging male, and 23-degree weather in a driving snowstorm, not my idea of fun. Primogrill.com is the place to go. We're back with Wes Wright. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is proudly sponsored by Fireboard. The innovators of the Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, and the wireless Fireboard Pulse experience total control over all your devices from anywhere in the world with the Fireboard app. Discover more by visiting fireboard.com or by calling 816-945-2232. My first guest tonight runs the cookoutnews.com website. Is that redundant? He was voted into the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame almost a year ago. We are quickly approaching that time. September 2026 will be the next time we put in a Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame class. But before that, we have a segment extended with Wes Wright. Hey, Wes.
Greg, how's it going?
I'm well. Thank you for joining me a little bit. Are you accommodating my last second request, or did I make this request earlier?
You made it, I don't know, a few days ago.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, I also got a little confused with Daniel Vaughn because he was supposed to be on this week, but asked weeks ago to go to next week. And I said, next week's fine, but we have embedded correspondence in your usual segment, so you're going to have to go in the first hour. And then I thought, I thought I told Wes, but I really told Daniel. Nevertheless, here you are. We have a YouTube poll question of the week. We're asking everybody, is St. Paddy's Day lame, yes or no?
For me, it's a non-event, so I'll say yes.
That's a yes. All right. Well, 50-50 yes or no split right down the Centralite voting public here on YouTube. So tonight, I thought we would spend some extra time doing a little Traeger talk. It's one of the biggest names in the industry. They're very splashy. They're very brandy, all the hot button phrases and terms that you'd want to use. But maybe you're new to the industry. Maybe you just bought a Traeger. You don't really know too much about it. Or maybe you've lost track of their goings on somewhere along the way because you've fallen out of love with the live fire industry over the last handful of years. But now you've rekindled your love affair with it. Whatever the case may be. We've talked about it at more of a high level as it relates to stock prices, delisting notices, and all this other stuff for month after month as things come and go here. And last month, you mentioned a reverse stock split on the show. March 12th, Traeger officially announces a 1-for-50 stock split. So let's start here. Let's get a bit more acquainted with this scenario, especially for the folks, as I had mentioned, new to the industry or to the hobby. Before we get into like the latest breaking news, can you give us a brief history as you know it and as you understand it on Traeger from when the Jeremy Andrus regime took over to going public and what happened with the IPO to where we are now?
Yeah, I'll forget some of the years all this happened, but yeah, basically Traeger is a brand that's been around for a little while, specializing pellet grills. Jeremy Andrus came in. He came from Skull Candy and helped them grow and rise to fame. They had a good run there. And I think actually I'm using Skull Candy headphones currently, but that's not important to this.
Skull Candy would have been the Beats of the day if Beats didn't happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back then, it was the thing to have. But he worked with some investment partners, and they took over Traeger. And then it was based in Oregon, I believe. And then there was they had a bunch of problems, with the current workforce and not wanting to kind of turn it around. They moved the company to Utah, where he resides. Then through the COVID times, starting 2020, the brand really took off, skyrocketed. Traeger pretty much became synonymous with pellet grills, much like a Xerox. So in 2021, riding that wave of explosion of outdoor cooking, they IPO'd. So they went public, and that's when a lot of other companies IPO'd too, like Solo Stove or Solo Brands, their parent company. Weber did the same thing. You also saw some other companies get bought, like Middleby buying Masterbuilt Char Griller and Kamado Joe. But since then, the industry kind of crashed back down to reality starting in 2022. And then it's been a much different scenario. They've been Traeger, like all the grill companies after that boom, struggled with inventory levels, people not buying grills anymore. And with that comes a decreasing stock price that once, was high when they IPO'd, because kind of the story that, in their thesis on why they're going to keep growing hasn't proved out to be true, as well as, and a lot of that, it wasn't even their fault too. There's just macroeconomic conditions, people aren't spending money right now, and so they're not spending money on discretionary purchases, and there's no one's buying homes, and there's a big correlation between home buying and buying grills too. So, they are where they are right now, which is significantly lower stock price than they once were.
Ultimately, getting sub $1 per share stock prices, I think, at its best, it was probably cresting $31, $32 a share, and then had steadily rode the decline train down to sub $1. They got it up plus $1 for just a little bit, but then have suffered days, if not weeks now, of sub $1. I don't remember if you said that they had been recontacted about not meeting the criteria again by New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, they touched 49 cents a few days ago, and they were at 60 cents, I want to say, yesterday. And they did. They briefly got relisted because they rose above $1, and now they're back down below. So they got a notice again from the SEC.
So on the 12th, as I had mentioned before, just 5 days ago, they announced and the board had to vote on this, whatever, a 1-for-50 split. How does this help Traeger? And I guess before we talk about how it helps, what is a 1-for-50 split?
Yeah, so to be listed on a stock exchange, there's requirements for your company. Just to be listed in general. One of them is that you have a share price that's above $1 to stay listed. That's a requirement. So they fell down below $1, which means the exchange says if you don't come in compliance within like 6 months or 90 days, something like that, then we'll delist you and you'll no longer be there. And usually companies want to stay listed because it gives you access to capital, and it's good for your brand image and helps with vendors, things like that. It's just overall, positive for capital in the company and performance, I'd say. What they did with the reverse stock split, it's a 1-for-50. So let's say you had 50 shares of Traeger stock, each worth $1. You now have one share of Traeger stock worth $50. So it's literally combining 50 of them into one for the sole purpose that you're not below that dollar threshold to stay listed, that you'll be ideally significantly higher than it. But that's why companies do it. There's some other reasons in general, but that's what's going on here.
Any idea how many shares of Traeger stock there were and how many there are now under the 1-to-50?
I don't remember their overall how many they had. But 50 to 1 is, that's quite a big combination there. So
is this a temporary fix, or is this something that ends up enduring over the long haul?
It's so you do it, and then ideally you're waiting out either improving your company, and this isn't Traeger specific, but you're improving your company, or you're waiting for the market to recover and your stock price goes up. What you don't want to happen is you do it and then your share price continues to tank and you're below $1 again. And if you look at the data, there's a high correlation between distressed companies having like liquidity issues and getting sold off or going bankrupt, and having multiple reverse stock splits. So you don't want to be in that. It's not a good signal for investors to have to do that.
Hypothetically speaking, let's say this pans out, they correct whatever they're going to correct, and they get into a better business position. Can they do the opposite of this? Can they, is it a stock split instead of a reverse split? Can they do a split to start making more shares available for people to buy into if they can correct the ship?
Yeah, if you want to, you can go the other way too, and have more shares.
And that just allows you to get more public money, creating more shares, get more money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, for the most part. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thoughts on how this is going to play out?
I think it'll have the desired effect. It took place at 5 p.m. today. It'll get them above there, and they should be fairly high above it. Although, Solo Brands did the same thing last year when they went through their own issue. They had more severe issues than I'd say Traeger does. But they did the same thing, and their stock's back down to $6. So, it's just, it gets a little more dangerous there, even though I think they're on the right track. But it makes sense, and it'll help them get, maintain listing.
Do you think Traeger's out for sale?
I think they could go private. I think that the biggest shareholder, like Jeremy Andrews, the CEO, owns a ton of the company. And I forget how many, but it's just a few, investors that own like 60% of the company or something. I don't have the numbers right, but it's a significant portion of the company's held by a small amount of people.
And he's part of this. He's got to take 50 shares to get one. Like you can't hold more because you're the major stockholder or anything like that.
No, I mean, he might have like priority shares or something like that, are different, but they're in general. Yeah, he does.
So Weber went public a week after Traeger, I think it was, now many years ago, and then went back to being private. You just mentioned after I said, would Traeger look to sell or could they be out for sale? You mentioned private. Would it be better for them to go back to being private, or how might it benefit them, or how might it not benefit them from going back to be private?
Yeah, so I think their situation's a little different. So for Weber, they were running into some major debt issues where I even questioned if they could, go bankrupt. Conceivably, they just had a lot of leverage at a high interest rate as the company was falling on hard times, and they still had significant ownership privately by some investment firms. So it made sense for them to go private and kind of fix the company, infuse it with a little bit of capital, and and rebuild it there. With Traeger, it's a little different story that I think we have to be at. By my estimation, I think we've got to be like at the bottom of the outdoor cooking market now. I've been saying that I want to say for 2 years, but like how much worse can it get? Just thing after thing after thing, But if I'm one of the majority shareholders, I'm saying, the story and value of my company isn't what's being reflected on my share price. I'm going to take it public, or I'm going to take it private, then build up the value, and I'll make that money myself. There's a lot more to it in that it's not being fairly valued in the public markets.
Could Weber go back public again if they wanted to?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything keeping you from it. I can think of a couple of companies that have gone public more than once. So yeah.
Would you foresee that happening, or have we seen all the public go outs during that COVID time and also learned maybe a lot of those shouldn't have went down that road?
What's unique about them that it could be a possibility. I think it's in the long run, though. I don't, like a lot has to change. We got to get back to normal times, and the grill replacement cycle has to start happening and all that. But one difference now is that they're Weber Blackstone. So they're, the size of the company is significantly larger, which is more helpful for going public than the size that they were. Not that they were small or anything, but it makes more sense when you're larger.
Do you have any idea what their financial picture looks like?
Top of my, this is just, not real data. I'd say they're I don't know from a liquidity standpoint. I think they're probably fine just with what they've gone through recently. But I bet you in revenue, they've got to be $2 billion-ish in revenue is my guess.
Really?
Yeah. I want to say they were like over $1 billion, maybe 1314. I'd have to go back and look like when they were public, and then I've got Blackstone at around 600 million. So they probably shrunk some since then, but I bet $1.5 billion, $2 billion. By far the biggest grill company.
How long can a company go making a lot of revenue and either not making profit or losing money? What kind of a cycle can you live off of like that?
You ask a lot of AI companies right now. You can, as long as you can sell the dream that you can get in and then you'll get big money in the end, you can burn cash for a long time. You just have to,
but you have to
growing.
You have to keep money coming in though, right?
Yeah, you have to keep money coming in, and you need growth is the key. To sell that story, you need to keep growing revenue. Like once you plateau, it's significantly harder story to tell.
What do you think from a product standpoint? Are we going to see anything from Traeger this year, or are they just going to continue to try and focus on correcting the business and then products next year?
Yeah, so what they're doing, and we've talked before about all the companies that are switching away from like direct to consumer business, that D2C, everyone in that same, IPO cycle in 2021, where not even just in grilling, everywhere was, direct to consumer this, direct to consumer that. And you saw that with Traeger, where they were big on their D2C market and, building the brand and selling right, to consumers. That was what they sold, that they were all about, just like a lot of companies, and they've really switched that. So they're going to have 2 new products this year in Q2. I think one's going to be in a more affordable connected pellet grill that will sell for $600 or $700, and there'll be an XL version. And then they're also going to have and this is just my guessing, I think they're going to have a 2-burner griddle that'll retail for about $499. That's a lot more stripped down than their flat rock that they came out with previously. But it's interesting because that's kind of the same cycle as all the other D2C companies, like I don't know if you're familiar with Peloton at all. I like their equipment. I'm a fan, but they were like that, where they built that image, that direct to consumer, built that image that it's a premium brand and premium products, and then they run out of runway for growth, and so then all of a sudden they look for new channels to sell into, make cheaper products, make cheaper partnerships. For me, I don't know that that's the right way forward, because you're not preserving that premium brand image, and so after a point, I feel like you've degraded what initially people liked about your brand. It's hard to sell that same story but then have it easy to get into the brand. So that's something that Traeger will have to maneuver as they release these cheaper grills.
Maybe they overestimated how much they could get out of a pellet grill. I forget whatever that not ironwood, the Timberline XL 400, whatever, and it was it $4,000 on the ticket price or $6,000 on the ticket price or something like that. That just seemed a lot of money for that. I mean, this isn't Kalamazoo or Viking or Wolf or a brand that you just inherently associate a lot of sticker to go along with it. Traeger always seemed approachable. You can get in it for entry level up to mid level, but then there was this rush on, we're also a premium grill manufacturer. Do you think they alienated a portion of the customer base, or allowed a portion of the customer base who thought, I can't afford to buy a Traeger?
I think so. They had some unfortunate timing when they released that, because I want to say it came out in spring of 2022, right when things were starting to go bad. So things are going bad, and now we're going to release a $4,000 grill. I think what their idea is that you have this premium product that people want, like here's the, this is the Corvette, but you can't afford this, so you're going to buy like a Malibu, right? That's kind of their model of how that works. And then they also will take innovation that they have from that grill and trickle it down to the other brand or to the other models within their line. So I mean, I think it was successful in that, and it came out with a lot of fanfare. I don't really hear it hyped up much anymore. I mean, we're 4 years from it being released, so it's getting a little stale. And I think we're going to see a new one. My guess, in 27 or 28, they're going to refresh that line. Is my guess. But
they're going to refresh the Timberline.
Yeah, they've said that they've completed their kind of innovation cycle of going down market with all their grills, and so their whole philosophy is once you do that, you reset and start with that top model again. So I think we'll see a new Timberline in next year or 28. They're probably waiting. Like I said, they released that at the worst possible time, so they're probably waiting for the market to turn a little bit and playing with that timing is my guess.
So we're anticipating 2 new grills here in Q2 of 2026. Any updates on Meter?
Yeah, Meter, that's another one that, I think they misjudged that a little bit, that they were counting on the brand to be strong enough to carry them through, because they bought that company and then they had success, a lot of success with it, enough to pay out the original founders quite a bit, and then it tanked right after. So that was just unlucky on their part, because pretty much everybody has a wireless thermometer now. So it was hard to differentiate. It didn't have a strong enough brand with Meter to sell it. And I believe they want to start bringing that into more brick and mortar channels. So more retailers, I believe, is their plan to start getting that to more people. What's interesting though too, and another side note, is another thing that Traeger did recently. Now that they're not focused on D2C, they stopped selling absolutely any products on their website. You can't buy Meter on their website. You can go to meter.com and buy Meter products, but you can't buy rubs, you can't buy sauces, you can't, buy pellets, nothing. It pushes you to, Home Depot and Ace for the most part.
It's wild. Such an about face. Crazy. Anything else about Traeger or any other grill company before I broach a completely different subject?
No, last thing on Meter too is that was a UK company, and they've gone through a bunch of restructuring at Traeger. So they've done layoffs and they consolidated that. They brought that brand from the UK over to Salt Lake City, Utah. I want to say last fall, as they consolidated into that, core entity and cut some of that overhead overseas. So that's the latest on that too. What's the
Best, not most popular, but in your opinion, what's the best grill brand out there right now?
That's hard to say, because a lot depends on the price point. But are we including like griddles and things like that in this as well? Because I'd say Blackstone still is one of the best brands, and Weber is also, like, it's hard to beat their brand as well. Is that, like, that's not to say these are my favorites, but that's just, the most brand equity I'd say out there, Weber and Blackstone, probably.
What is going on with artisanal brands, other big brands releasing charcoal? Can I go out on a limb and say that the 3 to 4 options that are currently on the market are more than enough? I mean, Meat Church comes out with charcoal. I don't think I'm going out on another limb to say they're not making their own charcoal anywhere. They're not partnered up with, somebody in Peru or Cyprus making a special blend solely for Meat Church. Likewise, Pit Boss is also announcing they're coming out with a charcoal. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it's another opportunity, another touch point with consumers, but from what I've heard on the charcoal industry is that, it's the same players and they just white label it to a bunch of places. Blackstone actually just released a charcoal too with their open fire grill. But I'll be honest, with all those like expensive charcoal brands that popped up, especially during that same time period, like 2020, 2021. I cook with just Kingsford Blue quite a bit. I don't know if, like, it seems like that's like not a fashionable thing to say, but it's, I can buy a ton of the fuel for cheap and grill a lot on it. So that's more often than not what I'm cooking on.
I think Kingsford has come back let me rephrase. I don't think it's ever become unpopular. I think in the height of barbecue, seeing a lot of TV time and it being in the golden era of barbecue, as I call it, like 10, 15 years ago, other options allowed you to realize that maybe Kingsford wasn't the best option, but it was widely available. There were so many great charcoal options that came out within the golden era that it was better than Kingsford. Unfortunately, nobody could figure out the distribution game. You were in specialty stores in very regional areas of the country. You were paying through the nose on shipping if you're going to do it that way. And then you were also rolling the dice that a quarter or half the bag wasn't going to show up smushed and be just charcoal dust. That's a waste of money. So I was like, this seems like a great idea. There seems like there'd be some really great options. Nobody appears to be able to figure out how to get over that hurdle that Kingsford just dominated. I mean, you can go to the fucking grocery store and buy a 20-pound bag of Kingsford next to Kleenex. It's crazy how widely available it is, let alone on the big box stores. And then the only one that I would say is even remotely close, and this is actually the one that I prefer, is B&B. Makes a really good lump charcoal.
Yeah.
Makes a really good briquette charcoal. They have the char log. They get into some weird other shit that I'm not too interested in. But like bag for bag, pound to pound, and it seems to be, at least where I live, as widely available, B&B being widely available as a Kingsford is going in anywhere else. And if I have the option, I'm going B&B every day of the week.
Yeah, I use B&B. I mean, I use quite a variety of charcoal, but I do like a lot of B&B products. Kingsford, they own, last number I saw, 80% market share.
That's
so
huge.
they're owned by Clorox, massive company that nobody can compete with. Like it's a monopoly on charcoal. That's why you can buy it everywhere. And also, when I look at B&B and stuff, though, I look at charcoal and get a bag for like $10, and I do a ton of grilling. So, just with the volume I'm burning through, like it's a lot. It just makes more sense for me to go there for that, maybe a little bit of gain I might be able to get going somewhere else, and I always, like you said, what you're going to get. I've gotten too many bags of just crumbly mess that just annoys me. So it's the consistency and the price wins out for me.
Are you a snuffer and relighter of Kingsford charcoal?
I try. It doesn't. I don't know that it works out amazing. I do it sometimes, but like I don't know. It like I feel like it just like the results on my food or something like just don't turn out quite the same, or like I'm using too much charcoal, or it's a little smokier, or like. So I usually just dump it.
Pro tip: snuff it, collect it, into the charcoal chimney, light it, and then sprinkle that over the unlit charcoal.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Yeah, I just dump it on is what I've been doing. Yeah.
Of course. All right, what are you working on that we're going to be reading here in the next week or two?
I've been, working with someone and releasing some interview pieces that have been pretty good. But we're right around the corner. I mean, we're getting to grilling season, so we're going to see some new grill releases and things like that. I don't think that anything major is being released this year, at least that I've heard any rumblings. But I think a lot of companies are just trying to refocus and iterate a little bit and just try to make it through the year.
Is HPB Expo this weekend or next weekend? Or did it happen?
It is. It's this week. This week.
Are you going?
Yeah. No, I had too many other commitments. I couldn't make it.
Yes. Well, no shock. I'm not going to go either, but I'll keep my ear to the ground for all the latest breaking updates and news. Hey, this is our pal Wes Wright. You can see him once a month, typically in the 35 past the first hour on every third Tuesday, but helping me out coming in a little bit earlier. Wes, appreciate the great content tonight, and we will see you in April.
Thanks, Greg.
You got it. Our guy Wes Wright. Again, the website cookoutnews.com. Maybe he's got weswright.com too. But go to cookoutnews.com. Also, make sure if you're a business fan like me, you're subscribing to his premium business content. You don't want to miss out on that. You want to get the full story. You can be the expert in the room. Well worth the small investment to become a smarter inside grilling business person. Also follow him on social media at Cookout News. Michael Savino is in Jeff Cohen's brother-in-law. Yes, B&B from my local hardware store with several varieties. It's probably an Ace Hardware store too, right, Michael? Or at least chances are high that it's an Ace. They carry it in their general distribution center. All right, let's talk about Big Papa Smokers. We're halfway through March, doing the February-March promo right now before we get a new one. The competition circuit is lit. It is ignited. Elevate your barbecue game with championship flavor from Big Papa Smokers. Ensure your pantry is stocked now with the essentials like the award-winning Sweet Money and the indispensable Sweet Money Hot, and further indispensable Cash Cow, and the further indispensable Little Louie's seasoned salt The list goes on and on. I mean, they're really just all great. Don't let the smoke roll without being prepared, whether you're aiming for a Grand Champion trophy or just mastering your backyard grill and delighting the neighbors. Big Papa's delivers award-winning taste. Get your flavor advantage now at BigPapaSmokers.com, plural, BigPapaSmokers.com, and use promo code REMPE26, that's REMPE, and then the numerals 26 at checkout for free shipping. Now exclusions apply, so be sure you're doing all your due diligence. BigPapaSmokers.com, the website. Big Papa Smokers, real barbecue, real results. And we're back right after this. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
We thank Wes Wright for joining us last segment, cookoutnews.com. This portion of the show is proudly sponsored by the Pit Barrel Cooker. It is truly the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Available in 3 sizes with a variety of accessories, regardless of your skill level, from beginner to professional. This is a must-have cooker that you must add to your arsenal. Go to pitbarrelcooker.com and let them know the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Close that out. I have an email from Bob in Georgia. Greg, in complete rebellion against Meathead, I'm going to cook what is essentially the biggest fraud in live fire cooking, except they were given to me. I'm even going to waste 10 pounds of charcoal and cook them in the pit barrel. Shout out the pit barrel. Ever seen pork tomahawk chops? Never have I ever contacted any kind of podcaster, but you have struck a nerve. God, now I sound like George Costanza. Love the show. Regards, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Bob Beauclair. I say that right? I think it's Beauclair. One of them French names that reads like Boisclar or Boisclaw. Whatever. Yes, of course I have heard and seen and cooked and eaten pork tomahawk chops, except nobody gifted them to me. I had to buy my own money. I had to buy and then use my own money. How about earn? Bob did send a picture of said tomahawk chops. You can see them right here on the left. No antibiotics ever added hormones. No antibiotics ever. No added hormones. Which, by the way, reminds me of a great joke. How do you make a hormone? Don't pay her. Oh, where are we at here on weight? Well, I can't see it. We got a 4-ounce serving size. And I don't see anything else. As I'm evaluating said chop, I think the tomahawk part of it, the tomahawk, could be a little longer on the bone. And this one on the left, kind of a lackluster. Is it spinalis on the pork? And then you can see here on the right, real visible a line of spinalis here. That one looks, this one actually might not be too bad either, I guess. Is there spinalis on the pork loin tomahawk chop? Look, Bob, take it from a guy like me who has made it his official position in life going forward that when he sets foot in a steakhouse restaurant, holding St. Elmo aside, but every place else, I'm going into a known steak restaurant. I'm not getting steak in that restaurant. In fact, I'm looking for a tomahawk chop. How about that? Pork chop, I mean. I'm looking lamb first and foremost. I'm looking any kind of double cut pork chop or tomahawk pork chop or anything pork. I'm also looking at a potential fish dish, and I'm not a fish guy, but I've had it. I'm not saying you're in a steakhouse, Bob, but I'm saying I've absolutely had those pork tomahawks. I bought them from our local Heinen's 30 seconds up the street from me. And when you cook pork correctly, which means not exceeding an internal temperature of 145 degrees, like it can't go higher than that. And don't let anybody tell you, hey, there's pink in my steak. Would you please go put this on the grill? Say no. I won't.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Now, if you're in a restaurant and you want to do that, you're paying. You demand it. You go ahead and do whatever the hell you want to get a well-done steak in a restaurant, and you're paying for it, and they're giving you the hard way to go. You say, hey, I'm paying for this. But if you come to my house and I bought it, the answer is no. I'm not going to take it higher than that. In fact, I'm going to force you to eat it at 145 so you can enjoy a properly cooked portion of pork and its tenderness and its succulence and its juiciness and it's in its most flavorful cooked state of 140 to 145 degrees. Perfectly safe. In fact, I might go so far as to say a little bit more pink the better. Don't let these people fool you. You don't have to take pork to 160 degrees or, heaven forbid, 180 degrees like they did back in the day. Trigonosis, not a thing anymore. Slaughterhouses, very clean, no matter what everybody else is telling you. You don't got to take your pork out or your chicken out, your beef out, wash it down, do all that nonsense. It's all very clean. Don't worry. Jason Pettis asking, what if they offer duck in lieu of pork or something else? Yes, I will take a duck. Not foie gras, though. That weirds me out. But I will take a nice medium rare duck breast. So, Bob, if you listen to this on the pod, which I'm sure you do, I would love to get the final feedback on what pork was like, the pork tomahawk in the pit barrel, no less. Bob, might I make a suggestion since you have a pit barrel? There is no better lamb cooked anywhere on the face of the earth than in a pit barrel. It is literally the best. You can't get it better anywhere else. The pit barrel, crack the top, allow the heat to build a little bit more than it normally would. Take the bones, stick them in the grates as a holder. I learned from the master, Noah Glanville, creator and proprietor, along with his wife, Amber Glanville, of Pit Barrel Cookers. I've had it at their house when they used to live in Prospect, Kentucky. Was it Prospect? I don't know. Let's just call it Louisville. No better pork or no better lamb on the face of the earth than off a pit barrel. And I believe Jess Pryles backs me up on that as well. She's a huge lamb fan. So if you have the means, I highly suggest picking up rack of lamb and cooking it in your pit barrel. But please give me the feedback on the pork tomahawk as well, Bob, so we can have, I believe, what would be 3 weeks in a row of emails from Bob. Before we go, let me bring up something that I feel is going to start trending again. What have we seen in the news? This is not a political statement. This is not a news statement. This is just what I've been seeing in the news. And I'm not a huge watcher, but I can see what's starting to trend around. This little thing called the Epstein Files. Okay? You've heard about him. You know, the guy, dead, scumbag of the earth. A lot of people in these files, a lot of prominent names in these files, A lot of political figure, a lot of celebrity, blah, 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 blah. As it relates to the live fire industry, I believe, because I got a lot of you people follow Adam Perry Lang on social media. I don't know if he regenerated one of his popular tomahawk steak things that he cooks on the Weber kettle out there. And I made a post. A lot of you saw that post that I made. I haven't gone back to check to see if I have been banned or if it's been taken down. Saying, hey, this guy gets a lot of really great attention, a lot of great kudos, yet nobody seems to ever want to talk about this guy having been Jeffrey Epstein's personal chef for 4 years. Nobody seems to want to talk about that. Adam Perry Lang removed from the Barbecue Central show's Guest Hall of Fame for connections with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I will go out of my way to say he has not been charged with any nefarious activity, no trafficking, anything of this point. In fact, if you do a little research and you find the podcast by Tara Palmieri that covers Virginia Giuffre, who's like the main woman bringing all the cases against Jeffrey Epstein and the like, Prince Andrew, not Prince, one of the old guy, Prince Charles' brother, whoever he is, the disgraced guy. She goes into amazing detail about her interactions with Adam Perry Lang on Epstein Island. He's also been to the Zorro Ranch. He's also been to the New York City, the Manhattan, the highest priced private residence in Manhattan, was there as well. All the while claiming, I never saw anything, I didn't see anybody there, I never had any interaction with anybody, and yet she details a number of personal interactions with Adam Perry Lang and how he used to bring out food to all of the women there, girls there, naked girls there. So I believe you will start seeing a trend of more people start bringing up, hey, what is the deal with this? How come Adam hasn't gone out of his way to mention the names that he saw on Epstein Island at the, Palm Beach, Florida house, or at the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, or at the New York City, the Manhattan house, the Manhattan home, whatever you want to call it? You might start hearing some more live fire podcasts talking about that. You can go back and search my show and listen to the agenda that I listened and why I decided to ban him or remove him from the Hall of Fame for now. But in reality, in totality, while he has availed himself to answer questions, he has given no names. He has given no insight, no anything. And just go back and read the articles and listen to the interviews. If he was sequestered in a cave and never saw anybody and that was the truth, okay, I find it hard to believe considering what I've heard and what I've read. So if that's what we're talking about, we love to see trends. We want to know what the next trend's okay. Then I would say keep an ear out, keep an eye out. This is something that might bubble up here as we work through 2026. Folks, and just like that, if you can believe it, the show is over. I might go to do a 1-hour show. That might be a thing. I've done it for 20 years. I can flip to an hour. This was fun and exciting. By the way, before we leave, if you are looking for a great, high-quality, and affordable premium hand-rolled cigar, McAuliffe is the brand that I'm going to recommend, of course. Whether you're seeking the nuanced elegance of the Migdalia or the complex power of the Leanda, McAuliffe offering a symphony of flavors for every palate. Taste the tradition. Visit McAuliffeCigars.com. Find a retailer nearest you. McAuliffe is spelled MICALLEF. All right, we thank Wes Wright for joining us, giving a little in-depth Traeger look back and where we are here present day, what he thinks they might do through the rest of the year and into the future. We had a little Weber talk. He believes Weber and Blackstone are the best brands right now, not necessarily his favorite, but best brands. And really, enough with the charcoal already, right? Touch points be damned. Buy B&B or buy Royal Oak or buy Kingsford. That's it. Don't get into it. Talk about a segment that has a lot of noise in it for no good reason. There's a lot of great options already out there. Rub and sauce, that's different. Charcoal, we might be way saturated already. All right, big show planned for you next week. We will probably stretch into the second hour, of course. We have embedded correspondence, and we have a Daniel Vaughn visit. As we close out the poll here this evening, 64% of you are saying that St. Patrick's Day is not lame. You love it. 36% of you are with me saying, yes, it's lame. We can agree to disagree. Or, as I always like to say, we can agree that I'm right. Until next Tuesday, so how do I always leave it? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. And until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe saying, Shamo, Shamo!
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.